The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I want to welcome you all to this Friday morning's webinar, and thanks for taking the time to attend. This is, of course, Dr. Mike Schuster in Scottsdale. We're in our office this morning. Wanted to just share just one small little insight with you before we get going. I was just in Raleigh, North Carolina doing a seminar, and one of our long-term alumni, Glenn Molnar, was there, and he brought in a brochure that I had done, that he'd come to the first seminar, the Profitability Management Seminar in 1986. And then he gave me something that was in the manual that I'd written, and I thought it might be interesting. I thought you might have interest in it. So here's what I wrote. Frankly, I have no reason to doubt the Grace Commission's findings. This was on the debt, U.S. debt. If anything, history may have proved that the projections were a bit low. Here's why. The Grace Commission arrived at its federal spending projections by looking at government's record for spending increases over the past several decades. They didn't take into account an imminent banking crisis or a potential war in Central America or any other crisis. Remember, I wrote this in 1986. In other words, the Grace Commission's findings were accurate only if the U.S. continues smooth sailing between now and the year 2000. If the government has to bail out Social Security, guarantee the losses of a number of failed banks, or finance a war in Central America or the Mideast, this spending figure will increase dramatically. And chances are at least one of these crises will occur, more than likely several of the three. So welcome to the pitfalls of creating wealth. When I conclude this webinar in about 55 minutes, I'm going to offer you an invitation to get on the path of wealth creation. And as usual, some of you are serious now, and some of you will become serious later, and many will never become serious. I'm not sure really whether we can help you or not, and I want to be clear about that. But the other thing is, we're not interested in wasting your time or ours. If we aren't 100% convinced that we can make a difference in your life and practice, we'll tell you. That's the only honest and ethical thing to do. We also know that we can't help anyone who isn't motivated, committed to a better life and practice. So your first step to the path of creating wealth is a profit potential profile. Your positive response to my invitation is a request for a profit potential profile, nothing more. To determine where you want your money to go, you first have to know where it's going. The profit potential profile will show you precisely where your money is going. So, if you look back over the past 3 years, 5 years at your practice, and the $3 to $5 million that you've collected, ask yourself how much you've saved, how much do you have left? So you, like me, are on a path. We're all on a road. You're headed in a direction, and you're headed towards a destination just like I am. The question is, are you headed towards the destination of your choice? This is the data from the American Dental Association. It's hard for people to believe, but it repeats itself every year. 1% of dentists retire with more than $4 million in net worth, 3% with $1 to $3 million, 30% with less than $1 million, and 66% never can afford to retire and become wards of the Social Security system. So I want to review that these are basically the 5 reasons that any of us go into practice. These are what I like to refer to as the 5 freedoms: financial or money freedom, time freedom, control freedom, relationship freedom, and purpose freedom. The single biggest mistake that I see dentists making is that they run their practices on an accounting statement. It's the single number one biggest pitfall. That's like driving your car at 80 miles an hour and looking in the rearview mirror to see where you're going. My 40 years of working with dentists suggests that this is the biggest and most common error. It sets you up to be disconnected from reality. Some explanation is needed, but think about it. When you get your P&L statement at the end of the month or the quarter, right? So you never really know what's going on, and you never really can run your practice on this statement. Let's be sure that you know that I'm not running down accountants. I have a great accountant and great respect for them, and have used the same firm since 1975. On the other hand, accounting is great with taxes and depreciation, but I can't run my daily practice or the center on an accounting statement, and neither can you. So you can be sure that if you're running your practice on an accounting statement, that you will be disconnected from reality. You've got to run your practice on a percentage budgeting system. It's the heart of a cash flow system, and it's the heart of creating a path towards wealth creation. So the only way you can really be connected to reality is run your practice with real money. And so your financial statement or your P&L is really a fictitious statement. I like to say it's a lie, but I'm not going to go that far. It means nothing regarding your current state of financial or practice health, because you're never going to create wealth on depreciation or write-offs. If you don't run your practice on a percentage budgeting system, then you don't know what your fees should be for individual services you're providing, how to price or cost out individual services or total case fees or charges. You can't master money until you have a percentage budget and a cash flow system. What happens to dentists without a cash flow system, which includes a fee-setting system, a financial arrangement system, a payable and receivable system, is all you do is end up spending your life chasing your expenses. You become a production machine to keep up with your expenses. Without a cash flow system, you're never in control of money. And so no matter how much you produce, you're always a slave to money and never achieve financial freedom. This is the single most important reasons why most dentists, not all, but most dentists, live in survival, safety, and security their entire careers. So if you don't have a cash flow system, you can't be in control of money. If you aren't in control of money, you'll live in fear, safety, security, doubt, insecurity, frustration, and fear. This puts you below the line, and you'll never reach your God-given potential as a dentist as long as your life and practice are centered on you and not the well-being of your patients. How do I know? I know because every day we talk to confused, frustrated, and often sometimes bitter dentists, okay? This is the major reason why the vast majority of dentists spend their entire careers in survival and scarcity. They don't feel safe, secure, and at peace with money. And of course, they're distressed by money their entire lives, and they have a reason to feel this way. These dentists never create wealth. They aren't on the path of creating wealth and to the personal, emotional, and spiritual peace of mind that's in their grasp if they'd only reach out and get it. I see this as our first and most important role at the center, to guide our clients out of survival and security so they can have financial peace of mind. The second major flaw that we see, or trap, is that dentists fall into excessive personal spending. In my lifetime of looking at practice and net worth statements, I find that many dentists have far too much personal debt and develop lifestyles that mirror the rich and famous. Of course, they don't feel that they are, but they are. Generally, unless people have financial control and the discipline that goes with it, their spending patterns increase as their practice revenues increase. I'm told by financial planners that these same spending patterns are true of all doctors, of all shapes and sizes, in every profession, regardless of specialty or location. It's also true with most who own their own small businesses. So please don't think I'm trying to be harsh on dentists. Remember, I am one. And this is a quote from the richest man in Babylon. Now, I'll tell you a truth about men and women. Whenever your income grows, your expenses will as well, unless you protest to the contrary. Spend what you will, but always save 10% to permanent savings and investments. Patterns of behavior with money are developed early in life and early in practice and generally continue throughout the career of the dentist regardless of income. Another common mistake is the more money you make, the more money you spend. If the dentists themselves aren't spending the money, their spouses are. I've seen this situation get worse and worse the more doctors and spouses that are in the practice. Instead of having 2 people trying to spend all the money makes, now we have 4, 6, and even 8. So there needs also to be some sort of a home budgeting system as well. What you spend at home is an integral part of your cash flow system. What you spend on taxes is an integral part of your cash flow system. What you save every day, week, month is an integral part of your cash flow system. To prevent you from spending more when you make more, a percentage budget is the key. When I was 28, I established a percentage budget, and a minimum of 10% of my gross collections I saved. That meant I could spend the rest. I could spend the other 90% on my practice and personal expenses. I personally raised the bar to 20% of my practice income and did that by 9 years, so that by the age of 37, I was totally financially independent. My net worth, including the value of my paid building and home and practice, exceeded $2.5 million. Those without a percentage budget rarely have any sort of personal percentage budget they operate with either. Many times, because of excess personal expenditures, personal debt, the practice becomes a lifestyle machine for the dentist, and somewhere along the line, the practice no longer is directed at meeting the patient's needs, but is turned inward on the personal lifestyle and the needs of the dentist. The third most common error that prevents dentists from creating wealth is excess debt. Remember that $1 of interest is $1 that could be invested, and much of it could be tax deferred. Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world, made by his own personal investment, knows this well. When he values the worth of a business, he values it based on 4 key strategies or principles. One is the ability of the business, in our case the practice, to create or generate revenues. The second is the strategy of the business to control costs. The third is the strategy of the business to control debt. Low debt means a business can reinvest in itself and buy other businesses for growth. The strategy of the business for growth and profits is to generate free cash flow to save and invest either in your business or in other investments. Whenever your personal interest exceeds 20% of your after-tax income, then you need to instigate a plan to reduce debt. Whenever in your practice you have more than 10% of gross revenues that are going for principal and interest, you need to reduce debt in your business, because both of these aspects will interfere with your ability to save and invest. Years ago, I created a 5-step plan for debt reduction and have lectured on it for nearly 40 years. Some others have copied it, but few really understand the importance of controlling debt. There are even some major accounting and consulting firms that work with many dentists that promote excess borrowing. In my view, these firms, mostly run by accountants, have no clue as to what excess does to a dentist mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So here's the 5-step plan. Number 1, pay off all credit card debt first. Number 2, pay off any and all consumer debt. Number 3, pay off your house. Number 4, save 10% of permanent savings. That is 10% of your gross revenues. Number 5, create a no-lose conservative investment strategy. Excess debt of any kind debilitates your ability to render the best service and care for your patients. Excess debt debilitates our emotional well-being and encourages excess self-interest and often even depression. Excess personal debt keeps you in a survival emotional state. We all started out that way. It just doesn't make any sense to spend your life this way. Whenever your practice debt, as I said, exceeds 10% of your collections, and this includes leases for technology machines of all kinds, you're too far in debt, and this amount of debt may well be destroying your capability to save and invest and create financial freedom. I'd also like to talk to you more about debt, a little more. Debt is money, and it's an emotional thing. Debt bothers some of us more than others. Okay? For some people, debt really affects their personality. And so I can't give you a formula, and nobody else can give you a formula because it's very personal. It regards your temperament and your attitude towards money and debt. It regards the circumstances, your personal circumstances that you have, and your own values, goals, and objectives. So there are two kinds of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt is borrowing money for rapidly depreciating assets. Bad debt is borrowing money for toys, second and third cars, boats, airplanes, second homes, expensive and lavish vacations. I'll never forget doing a practice health evaluation for a prominent dentist in Philadelphia some time ago. When we walked into his office, I noticed a picture of his 44-foot sailboat on the wall. I couldn't help but comment to the receptionist on the beauty of the boat. The receptionist quickly shared with me that it was the doctor's boat. The reason he had his picture in his office, she noted, is he barely takes time off to use it. When we evaluated his P&L and did a profit potential profile, we discovered that because of his 71% overhead, he had to collect $25,000 a month just to have enough money to make the payment on the boat, pay for the insurance on the boat, upkeep the boat, and the boat slip. This is not an unusual story. In fact, it's an all too familiar story. And so herein lies the basis of a rule based on the financial principle that I've taught and implemented in my own life. There's don't let your possessions possess you. If you buy a boat, pay cash for it. If you buy an airplane, an exotic car, or anything you want, write a check for it, or you can't afford it. The farmers in Iowa used to say over and over again, when I was in practice there, that the barn builds the house, but the house doesn't build the barn. And when you get your assets reversed and your personal assets, you're spending more money on your house than you are the barn, which is your practice, you know you're headed down the slippery slope. So the best debt is the debt you use to grow your practice, to invest in what has the power to increase your earnings, your savings, and your investing. The best debt enables you to deliver better quality of care, enhance your patient's comfort and lifestyle, and in the process, improve your own. So there's good debt and bad debt. The good debt is business management training. The good debt is sales. That's right, sales training, the thing most dentists don't want to do, which is the key to growth in your practice. And leadership training, which is another powerful key in your practice. And investing in your own people. Your people are really the major driving force of your practice other than you. And by people, I mean their skills, their capabilities, their knowledge. Investing in your ability to communicate, investing also in advanced technical training, and of course, personal development workshops, because you're not going to go any farther than you go personally. In fact, I've earmarked 5% of your total revenues for your own development, your management, your leadership, communication, and sales training. Too many dentists invest too heavily in technology and not enough in their own development, staff development, and they wonder why they aren't growing. Years ago, when I was working to develop some software, some management software, I went to visit a software development company in Washington, D.C. When I walked in the door, the president of the company greeted me and made this statement. He said, "You own an oil well." Call me stupid, but I didn't really understand what he meant. And so I asked him, he said, "What do you mean?" His response was something like this. He said, "Well, every day, every week, every month, you have a stream of money coming into your business. Your practice is an oil well." I guess you could say that's true. except for one very different point. You and I have to be there with our belly up to the chair to pump the oil. We have to be there to generate the revenues. We have to do the excellent recare programs to bring our patients back. We have to be there to produce the dentistry. That's what a lot of consultants who've never practiced dentistry and quite a few others just don't get. I wrote a couple articles. Actually, they were in dental economics, entitled Tied to the Chair and Freedom from the Chair, which addresses these core concepts. Then there's another group of dentists, and this is a pretty large group. They're on the other side. And I think there are far too many dentists that fall into this group. They are just cheap. They're penny wise but pound foolish. They say they're cautious, but in reality, they're just too darn cheap to invest in anything that would cause real growth. I've run into a lot of dentists like this, and they're their own worst enemies. So I want to review these 5 core questions. The 5 reasons why you went into practice, that we, as based upon what we survey and what we talk to our potential clients and clients about every day. Financial freedom. To be financially independent, to have financial peace of mind. To have time freedom, to have the time to do what you really want to do in your life. To be in control. That's why you own your own business. You went into your own business to be in control of your own life. And for relationship freedom, which is to work with and on the people you most enjoy. And purpose freedom, a chance to make a difference in your life. Where are the questions?
They're answering it right now.
What?
Ask them to choose which is most important to them.
Which of these is most important to you? Financial freedom, time freedom, control freedom, relationship freedom, or purpose freedom? Take a couple minutes or 20 seconds and please answer that question for us. The 4th major pitfall to creating wealth is running your practice by the seat of your pants. I can't tell you for sure which one of these pitfalls is the most common, but I'd have to say that other than running a practice on an accounting statement, which is of course still running your practice by the seat of the pants, this is the single most common. Okay? Running your practice by the seat of your pants means that you have no definitive business plan, no concrete practice model that you operate with, no concrete life plan. You haven't taken the time and effort to organize and build a practice and life that represents you, your values, your beliefs, your goals, and your aspirations. So you end up reacting to life rather than creating the life and practice that matters most to you. So as I said, running your practice by the seat of the pants means you have no business plan, you have no personal financial plan, you have no plan to reduce taxes, to optimize savings, investments, and tax reductions. There's no 3, 5, and 10-year specific goals, objectives, and timelines. And the next pitfall, which falls underneath that same one, the seat of the pants, is because you understand the technical work that we do as a dentist, you think you can run a business that does that work. I run into this every day in my work. Because of our background in science and technique, we dentists have little or no value for organization, for time management, for sales, for people development, and even for purpose. I'd also suggest that many dentists have a value for marketing, but because of their lack of learning about management and leadership, they really don't know what marketing really is or what it does. Since 1974, when I started teaching at the Pankey Institute, I've watched dentists spend their children's education fund and their retirement money on advanced technical training to end up with using less than 5% of what they've been exposed to. Note, I didn't say learn, because learning only comes from doing. Most advanced technical education is flawed in the fundamental way it's taught. Dentists do not learn by listening, reading, or watching their gurus lecture. They learn by doing. The way we learn is tell me and I forget, show me and I may remember, but involve me and I learn. I'd say in the past you could run a practice by the seat of your pants. You could get by in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even 90s, when the United States had the fastest and most prolific growth economy the world has ever seen, when the supply and demand curve for dentistry was slanted in favor of dentists, but that isn't true anymore. On the other hand, those dentists that, quote, had it easy and thought they could run their business by the seat of the pants still had no cash flow system and had few, if any, systems and structures and never created a model to really run their practices. We call this group the baby boomers. There are 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, and they cannot afford to retire, okay? Why? Because they were the ultimate consumers. They spent almost everything they made. Most dentists operate without an awareness of developing a business model. So they function day to day and week to week and month to month. They focus on new patients and production, which alone don't cut it for wealth creators. Remember that your path, not your intention, leads to your destination. Without concrete goals, plans, structure, and actions, the path of least resistance takes over. Let's step back for a minute. Take a deep breath, pause, close your eyes, and think and reflect on your life so far. I'd encourage you to do that this weekend. You are on and have been a path, a road. You've been moving in a specific direction. You can tell more about the path that you're currently on by looking over the last 3 to 5 years. The question is the path you're on taking you to the destination of your choice? You've been and are continuing to move in a direction. We all are. The direction or path of your practice in life has been determined by several factors, maybe more than I'm going to share with you, but at least these. The beliefs, values, and principles that you've learned, accepted, and are actually acting out and practicing every day. The structures you put in your life and practice. The people who have mentored, guided, coached you, and the people you followed. Your parents being the most influential people in your life. The knowledge, the skills, the capabilities that you've developed in all areas that matter. Relationships, communication, people building, your technical capabilities, sales, organization, leadership, and marketing. And maybe more than any other factor, the people you spend the most time with. The people you hang out with will either raise up your expectations of yourself and advance your self-image and your belief in yourself and your profession, or they will diminish your self-image, your self-belief, and what you're able to accomplish. I use this statement over and over again. I've got it in the bathroom of my own house. I talk about it. I think about it. I believe it's an absolute fact. You'll never be any better than the 5 people you spend the most time with. Let's remember, you are like a river. I am like a river. You go and I go where gravity and the path of least resistance guide you. Everything in nature goes where it's easiest to go. Most dentists follow the herd, the road most traveled. Most dentists end up tied to the chair when they're 55, 60, and even 65. Step outside of yourself and look back. And after our time together, write out where you've been, what you've been doing, who you've studied with, who you hang out with, And for our interest today, in today's discussion, how much money you've saved and invested in the past 3, 5, and 10 years. As I said, you're on a path. You're on a journey. You're writing your own story. We all are. The most important questions are, is the road, the rut, the path you're taking where you want to go? Is the path you're on the right path for you? Do you feel good when you wake up in the morning? Do you feel great about your life and practice? Or have you just accepted what you have and given up trying? The structures of your practice in life takes you in a direction. If you look at where you've been and look at where you are and you don't like what you're getting, then you must change the path or you'll simply end up in a place you don't want to be. Someday you're going to be 60. Will you be where you want to be when you're 60? The question is, are you on the path you want to be on? Structure here refers to systems. Systems are how buildings are built. Systems are how computers are built. Systems are how cars are built. Systems are how businesses are built. Structures and systems are how lives are built. In every particular area of your life and practice is a structure, is a path. Within each structure, a car, a house, a building, a business, a practice, are systems. If you haven't identified the exact direction that you want to go, then the path of least effort will enter your life. You'll end up going where it's easiest to go. And for most dentists, that's a place they don't want to be when they're 60. The easiest thing to do with money is to waste it or spend it. We have a consumption-based culture. The easiest thing to do with time is waste it. Waste your time, you waste your life. The easiest thing to do is run your practice by the seat of your pants. Do nothing with it. Just let it run. The easiest thing to do with every patient that comes in your practice is do the one tooth the patient wants done or just clean their teeth or whatever. Of all the pitfalls that beset dentists, the lack of systems and structure is as big as any of the others. When dentists have problems or issues, they get out a consultant to come in and fix the problem, focusing on one part of the structure, one system maybe, but they don't fix the structure. This is the way we've been taught to think, to break everything into little pieces, to try to fix things. But it isn't long until with this approach that you lose sight of the big picture. We can get trapped into a piecemeal single tooth thinking and never put the entire thing back together. It's like seeing the trees but not the forest. It's like a mirror breaking and being shattered and trying to put it back together. One of my son-in-laws is a contractor that does a lot of bridge repair all over the United States. I asked Kurt the other day, do you ever evaluate a bridge that you can't repair? He said, just yesterday, I looked at a project that couldn't be repaired. Then I asked, what do you do? His answer was precise and accurate. We designed and built a new one. If something isn't working, if anything isn't working, you're on the wrong path, using the wrong information and the wrong strategies and taking the wrong actions. If you forget everything I ever say to you or anything I ever write, remember this: you can't fix a wrong structure. If you have no structure or a wrong structure, you're on the wrong path. You can't be moving in the right direction. There is nothing that can help you but to decide to move in the right direction and create a new structure or new path to get you there. This is a simple but profound truth. Now, you've been listening for a while, and you've probably listened to some of what I've said before and written, and some of you are even clients and students. But are you really, really paying attention to this? Okay? And so what I want to say this once more. You can't fix a wrong structure. All you can do is design and create one that leads to the success you want to create. To make this as clear as I can, if water, which is energy, is flowing in the wrong direction, then you have to change the direction of the water. The only way you can change the direction is to dig a trench or a riverbed and change the path of least resistance so the water flows in the direction you want it to go. If you aren't stopping up and saving as a dentist at least $5,000 to $10,000 every month of your career, putting it into permanent savings, you'll never be able to retire, and you'll be tied to the chair until you can't work, become a ward of the state, or working for insurance companies at 50% of an unusually crummy repair fee. It was Peter Senge at MIT who made this classic statement. Structure determines behavior, determines results. How would money be any different? It isn't. If you're stopping up and saving $5,000 and $10,000 a month, you'll get to where you want to go because you own your own business and because you have 30 million or more flowing through your money river in the lifetime of your practice. I hope you can see that's how you structure the flow of money that comes into your practice that determines whether or not you will achieve financial freedom. If you run your practice by the seat of the pants, you can never be any more than a mediocre dentist, average at best. Rather than creating financial freedom in 10 years, you never will. Why? Because without accurate information, you'll make lousy and poor financial decisions in your practice. You'll make lousy personal financial decisions. You'll end up making and spending a lot of money, but you won't end up creating wealth and freedom. You'll still be tied to the chair. That's why less than 1% of all dentists ever retire with more than a $4 million net worth. I want to share a recent experience with you. Just a couple months ago, I lectured to a group of dentists at the American Academy of Dental Practice Administration in San Antonio. Maybe you were there. The average age of this group is 62. I asked how many of them could retire. There was about 100 in my lecture, probably also about another 20 consultants. 19 of the 100 raised their hands. 17 of them were students of mine. Peter Senge, one of the brightest people on the planet, Senge's been called the greatest strategist of the 20th century in his book, The Fifth Discipline. After a lifetime of research and working with other really bright people like my personal friend Robert Fritz, he made this profound statement: structure determines behavior, determines results. If the direction of your practice or the money or anything else for that matter isn't moving in the direction you want it to go, the only thing that you can do that will get you predictable results is to change from a structure that's headed in the right direction or the wrong direction to a structure that's headed in the right direction. Never forget this. Please don't forget this. Everything is energy. You are energy. Water is energy. Electricity is, everything is energy. All energy goes. This is a principle in the universe where it's easiest to go. That's the principle of least effort. Another principle is anything that's in motion tends to stay in motion. So anything that's moving in the wrong direction tends to continue to move in the wrong direction. Anything that's moving in the right direction is tending to move in the right direction. Money is energy. You are energy. Everything follows the path of least resistance. Everything is following the structure that it's in. You, because you are in charge of your life, can change the path of money, time, and even your patience. Remember, you can't change behavior long term until you change the structure. If you want to create wealth, you have to structure your practice and life to create wealth. This is so important that I've spent the most time on it. Remember that structure leads to patterns of behavior, which leads to results, okay? Running your practice by the seat of the pants means that you really have no structure, okay? So the fifth pitfall And maybe I should have started with this one, but it's so important. The fifth pitfall, I wrote earlier that our parents are probably the most strongest influence in our lives, for good or not. We learn good things from our parents. We learn things that aren't so good. You just spent some time reading and hopefully studying about structure and its important influence in your life. The most important structure is the one that you don't think about very much. It's the structure of your own thoughts, okay? If you don't believe you deserve better, you won't learn and apply the strategies of wealth creation. If you don't believe you're worth it, then you aren't. You see, we're all going around with a belief system about money, and in fact, everything else. We're confining ourselves today to creating wealth, but your beliefs, like mine, determine everything that you do and don't do. Believing you don't deserve better is clearly seen in what you don't do. Your beliefs are the most important asset and liability, as mine are. My job and my role here isn't to change your beliefs, but just to inform you that you take actions on what you believe. In fact, what you believe determines what you achieve. When I do a morning seminar, I normally make this statement at least 5 times. What you believe determines what you achieve. What you believe determines what you achieve. I always get some interesting looks from the dentist in the crowd, like, hey, dude, you're talking about emotional, spiritual stuff, and we aren't supposed to be dealing with that stuff. It really doesn't matter, all this emotional, spiritual stuff. Heck, it does matter. Are you kidding? Like what we think doesn't matter. Are you kidding? Are you serious? Hey, there's absolute conclusive proof that what you believe determines your life. Like what we feel doesn't matter? Are you kidding? Like what we experienced in the past doesn't matter? Who said that? I'd like to share a few vital thoughts with you. You see, your beliefs are the determinant of your life. Your beliefs are the path and the structure of your life. Here's how it works. And this is from the research of Chris Argyris at MIT and his 25 years of research with some of the world's brightest minds. We're like videographers. We record everything we see and everything we experience. Of course, we can't remember everything, so we select data. Other research proves that, in fact, we can only keep 6 or 7 things in our conscious mind at a time. So we select things that have meaning to us. We select information that we already agree with and block out the rest. We pay special attention to some things and don't give notice to others. After a while, the data that we have in our data bank, in our minds, we begin to add cultural and personal meanings to. And in fact, other people do everything they can to influence us. Then we begin to make assumptions based upon the meanings that we already have. Then we draw a set of conclusions. This is how we all work. Then we fabricate a set of beliefs about the world. What if, as I said on the last webinar, what if your beliefs are wrong? See, so because whatever you believe is what you're going to do. But so you have to go back and you have to kind of look at this thing and you got to ask yourself some really serious questions, because you've heard the old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The reason you can't teach an old dog new tricks is because we can only create what we know. We only see what we believe. So after a while, we begin to block out everything else, and we only see what we already agree with. We can only do what we see. So it's your attention, not your intention, that determines your direction. Whatever you give the most attention to is what gets bigger in your life. My dad used to say a lot, he was a philosopher and a very spiritual man. He used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Intentions are good, actions are better. After a time, we begin to make assumptions how things work. And what happens is that we stop searching for new information. When we draw conclusions, we especially draw conclusions about things that we become emotional about. Then we develop a belief system about something. I'm not making this up as I go. The next thing to remember is that all people take action on what they believe. Your belief system is the determinant of your life. Your belief system is the structure of your mind. Your belief system determines the path you take in your life. Your belief system determines the path you take with your practice. Your belief system determines everything that happens in your life. If you don't believe that you're the dominant creative force in your life, as Robert Fritz suggests, then you can't or won't take responsibility for planning, designing, and organizing and creating your own life. This is something that no one can do for you. I might be able to help you, guide you, coach you, hold you accountable to a plan, a design, and aid you in creating the practice and life that matters most to you, but I can't and won't do it for you. I remember years ago when my friend Pete Dawson did a seminar entitled The Top 10%. I often wondered why Pete called it the top 10%. My experience is that the pitfalls that the majority of dentists fall into are more than 95%, is that the behavior that lead to creating wealth are the similar behaviors that lead to developing a top 5% practice. If your goals and aspirations are in conflict with each other, then what you get is hesitation, procrastination, backsliding, a lack of energy, drive, enthusiasm, and you won't study or find the best to learn from. If you ever experience a lack of motivation, a lack of drive, then this is absolute conclusive proof that you're moving in the wrong direction for you, or that your actions are not in alignment with your intention. The top 5% have strong beliefs in themselves. The top 5% live with certainty, not doubt, procrastination, indecision, and confusion. The top 5% have their path or structure lined up with their intentions and their actions. The top 5% live extraordinarily different lives than the other 90%, 95%. They have a positive self-image because they take action. They have a positive self-esteem, which makes them feel better about themselves. They have love for their work and how they do it. They have a passion for their practice and a passion for life. So, I'm offering you an invitation to get on or accelerate your path of wealth creation, to get on the path of financial freedom, to time freedom, and eventually insurance freedom. Your first step on the path of wealth creation is a profit potential profile, and that's your positive response to an invitation that I'll offer you at the completion of this webinar. To determine where you want your money to go, you first have to know where it's going. The profit potential profile shows you precisely where your money is going. Are you interested in a profit potential profile to connect with reality of where you are on the path to wealth and freedom? Please respond yes or no. For those of you already in the top 5%, this has been a refresher course. For those of you partially on the path and thinking about a different or a better way of life and practice, my hope is this will open the door for you to a better future, for you, for your family, for your children, and for your patients. And that you'll act and that allow us to act as a guide to help you on a path towards a better life and practice. Please remember, we aren't interested in wasting your money and time or ours. We know we can only work with those that are highly motivated and have a strong desire for a better life and practice. If you're serious about creating the freedoms you went into practice for, then you'll fill out the profit potential profile. And I want to close with this statement. Not every problem can be solved, but no problem can be solved until it's faced. Please feel free to email me anytime at my personal email address, mike@cfpd.com, with comments, questions, and requests. And please get on our blog. It comes out twice a week with information. You're free to go to our new website. It's up. It's continuing under construction. And I want to thank you for being here, and I want to wish you a blessed life. You deserve it. Thank you.